600 to 700 paintings. I do that, and I create paintings in less than an hour. And that's the magic, the gift of autism. All right, I think that's going to be a little better. Okay, that's the beauty in this gift through autism. If you tell me I'm a great artist, you know what I'm going to tell you? I'm not. I'm not a great artist. What I am is a vessel. And I hold through me this gift, this incredible gift. Now, in order to understand how wondrous that is, you have to understand I'm pushing 60 years old. And while all of you are doing wonderful things for the children, when I was a child, that's not what happened. I grew up in a little small Texas town outside of San Antonio, 3,300 people. I have an IQ of 154. Very typical of this high IQ that comes with Asperger's. So I have this IQ. I grew up in a small town. I'm biracial. I'm half Hispanic, half white. I'm living in Texas, and I'm a little kind of not quite Hispanic enough and not quite white enough. And so I already have that disconnect. Then I'm smart, and I'm really smart. But the interesting thing is, I'm autistic, and I don't know I'm autistic. And I don't know what that feels like. Because for each and every person sitting here, you have your own normal. And that normal feels perfectly normal to you. It itches in a certain place, you have certain reactions. All of that is your normal. And some of your normals are close. And some of your normals are not close. But it's all our normals. So my normal is, I have water sensory issues. I get in a shower, it hurts me. It's freezing cold no matter what the temperature is. And it's pins on my back. That lasts for about a minute before I acclimate. But I'm a child, and no one's having conversations about showers. And it's my normal. And I grow up thinking that everyone gets in the shower and everyone has this. Because I don't know. And how could I know? First of all, autism is not even a word you talk about. And I have a little dyslexia kind of thrown in for fun and all these fun things. But meanwhile, I have 154 IQ, and it's spinning and spinning and spinning. And I'm taking things in, and I'm memorizing things, and I'm not getting what people do. But I can mimic. I can look at people and know 100 people have done this, and that's what I'm going to do. And because of it, I look normal in their normal sense. But it's not my normal. And I panic inside anytime I have a new situation. And nobody knows to set the expectations for me. Nobody knows that what I need is to be addressed as a child that has to have everything laid out in front of them, because I forecast, I project. I do all those things that someone with autism does. But the word doesn't exist. I was in my mid-50s before I found out I was autistic. That's a lifetime of confusion. That's a lifetime of struggling. All of you are able to understand this, are able to work with the children, offer them advice. And I lived a lifetime with no fears. I lived a lifetime with no guidance. And I was miserable. I looked happy because I was going to put on a happy face, because all of us do what is normal. And around me, everyone was normal. And that normal said happy faces. I go to Burger King, there's posters. What does it have? Happy people eating out of China. I don't know that people don't do that. That's what the ads say. Everything coming at us is telling us who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act. And I'm mimicking. And I do it really well because I have this incredible mind that's a sponge. And I take it in. Now, along the time that I'm in my middle school years, in this little Texas town, there was an artist. And she's a pastel artist, she's a portrait artist. Very, very tight, very, very, she wants to get that likeness. So she has an art class. So about 10 of us show up for this art class. Here I am, this impressionable, autistic mind with this gift, this light within. pastels and I create a green bottle with purple shadows and I'm so proud. And she looks at me and says, "Oh, honey, there's no purple in the shadows." And I put it on the pastel and I was done. Because instead of seeing the light within me, she chose to make me her normal. For each of you that has a child, whether or not it's your family or whether or not it's someone that you're working with, realize that we have different normals. And each of us should be respected for the normal we have. It's not that we want to be different. We just don't know anything other than to be ourselves. You may have thought to yourself, what's it feel like to be autistic? What does it feel to process a certain way? Well, I'm your opportunity to know that. Because I am high functioning, I'm very intelligent, and I hear you. And after all this, we're going to have a little question and answer session. And I want to ask you to come up and line up, and I want to hear your questions. And I want to answer your questions, because you're going to have a lot of them. And some of the things are, what happens to me when I paint? I'm going to paint for you. You know what? It's going to happen. Probably 10 minutes, there's going to be a painting sitting there. And while I do that, it is my normal. I'm going to walk up to a canvas, and in 10 minutes, there's going to be a painting. And I don't understand that everyone else doesn't have that normal. Because in my brain, that's what you do. I mean, there's lots of people that do art, and they do months and months working on a painting, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. And how could I? Now, like what I asked for, and that is respect for my normal, I give them respect for their normal too. And I never criticize, and I never ask them why it takes them so long. Because it's different. It's a different normal. We all have that normal. So I'm going to create a painting. And when I do that, I'm going to give you a little insight of what happens in an autistic mind, and particularly a savant mind that thinks and acts differently. For Asperger's, everything comes at me all the time. From the moment I hit the ground in the morning to the moment I go to bed at night. Everything. I can't shut it out. I'm seeing people walking around, whether or not I'm looking at you or not. I can't shut it down. And you have that little bright kid in class, and all of a sudden he's working on something that he knows that little Missy's in the back doing something, and you think, how does he even know that? It's because we see everything, hear everything, every sound, everything. It all comes at us. And it's normal for us. And we don't know that everyone else doesn't do it. So when all of this happens, it's like you can imagine a firework display across the horizon. When I paint, all of that comes into a single moment that I focus on the canvas, and all those things that are normally all across are now only at the canvas. And I'm thinking design, I'm thinking on color, I'm thinking with everything that goes to create a painting. And the painting just happens. I will tell you that when I paint, almost translate. I don't know anything other than what's happening on the canvas. And that's the gift of the autism. I never know what a painting's going to look like before I finish. 600, 700 paintings. I've never seen what they look like before I start. In fact, even when I finish, I have to come back and see it later, even to know what it looks like. Because whatever created it is not in my conscious. Every single painting I have done since the first one is gallery worthy. And I didn't know I could do it. I picked up a brush and I could paint. I got in galleries, I started to paint, and I started to sell paintings. My third painting I ever did, $4,100. That's what it sold for. Now take a moment to think, what would happen if all of a sudden you walked up to a piano, or you picked up a musical instrument, or you picked up a brush, and you could paint or play or perform with the best in the world? What would happen? What would happen at your age? Because that's not the normal you know. How would you even know what to do with that? And I didn't. Truthfully, it's scary. It's scary to know that all of a sudden, here I have been struggling through my life, and in my mid-50s, I'm somebody, and I'm somebody unique, and I'm somebody so unique that there's no one like me in the world. What do you do? I didn't know I had autism. I knew that I had a gift, and I started working with autistic kids, mentoring, art. And I did it as a fluke. I thought about the communities that needed help. And many of you deal with different disabilities, different challenges, different things. And as I thought across who needed help and who was being addressed, autism seemed kind of pushed to the side. Because while some of the challenges may be cute, cuddly, wonderful, friendly, happy kids, autism is angst-driven. And we're very nervous, and we're very, worried about what's happening the next second, and worried about anything. I mean, anything we can. It's spinning. I mean, you can tell me something, and if it's not what I'm expecting, I'm spinning. And it's going around, and it's going around, and going around. And unless I get an answer, I'm in trouble. And your children are no different. If I tell you anything at all, and you take anything to heart, there's a couple of things you should think about. Set expectations, always. If you can let someone know, no matter how normal and how routine it sounds, if you can share with someone what to expect, that is going to help you. I can't even tell you how much, because we have trouble. We have trouble like turning courses. If we're here to do something, and we're going to go to lunch in a few minutes, but all of a sudden we're playing in the playground, we're in trouble. So set expectations. Second of all, recognize the norm of that person. If it's art, if they do sculpture, if it, whatever it is, whatever their normal is and however they do it, take it in and see how you can nurture it. Because that's their light. That's the light within them. And they may not be able to do X, but boy, they can do Y. So you're going to want to make sure that you see them for who they are. I had an art teacher, and she didn't see me, and guess what? I didn't pick up a brush again for 40 years. What did I miss out on? What could I have done? Who knows? I don't know. But I know this, I found it when I needed to, and I know this community needs me, and I'm here to spread this knowledge that there's lights within us, and we're gifted, and we have lots of things going for us. I can do crazy math in my head. I mean, if someone's standing there with a piece of paper and they're adding up figures, I'm looking upside down and I'm telling you what it comes out to. I can't do calendars, checkbooks, date timers, anything that's mundane and repetitive. That's my deficit. So if a parent has a child, and this child has a gift, and they want to push, but the child can't clean up their room, and no matter how much punishing and screaming and hollering, it doesn't happen, could be the deficit. Could be the thing that they can't do. I can't vacuum floors. I can wash dishes, I can't vacuum floors. Now you figure that out. For some reason, one's a challenge and the other one's not. I don't know exactly why. So, with your children that you're working with, whether or not it's a family member or whether or not it's someone that is in your classroom, if they can't do something or they reach a wall, the question is, what can they do and how can you redirect them in a way that makes sense? Because we can use their gifts in order to get them to the places we need to. So it's us rethinking our teaching or rethinking how we parent. And that's important. Okay, so I go through my life. I'm autistic. I don't know it. I'm unhappy. And I struggle through life. And with this 154 IQ that I think I've been do anything in the whole wide world because I've been tested at 18, and I'm a Mensa member of the whole bit. Paint contracting, wallpaper hanging, warehouse management, that's what I get. That's what I can do. And those jobs are 2 to 3 years at best, until I get bored, or until I overproduce because I'm so brilliant that the boss gets upset because I threaten him in some way. All of our workforce, all of our students, all of us, we need to be seen for who we are, and we need to be recognized for the deficits that we have. If we don't want to sit in a room full of people around a conference table eating a pizza and talking about nothing, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our office. Because we're not going to be able to do the mundane, and we're not going to be able to do the small talk, because it makes no sense. No sense at all. If you're going to stand there and tell me that your cell phone plan costs $10 this week, $10 more this month, guess what? I don't get it. You've already paid it. Why do you care? I don't care. I don't care about your kids at T-ball. I don't care about anything. The best conversations I have are where something volleys back and forth. If you can create conversations with someone with autism where it volleys back and forth, when you ask for an answer, it has to mean something, and then you have to respond in a way that it means something back. So remember that. We need the interaction in very logical ways. I went through a period in my life in the 80s. I was living in New York City, and I struggled. And on top of doing menial jobs, I got involved in drugs and alcohol. And that is pretty typical for people that had autism about that time, about my age group, because we get unhappy. And we don't know how to get friends. So the only way I could get friends was to share drugs and alcohol. Because if you buy your friends, they'll love you forever. And I didn't have a way to do it from inside. I didn't have a way to make them want to connect with me in a way that was meaningful. You know, since then, I've given advice to people with autism. I said, you know, find your friends, find the people that truly understand you. Well, I'm here pushing 60, and I have one best friend in the whole wide world, and he's over sitting there, and he happens to be an ex-cameraman for NBC New York, and he's my event manager, and he understands me. And we talk, and since he's from New York, you know, we don't have any of that blah, blah, blah talk. It's like, just tell me what you want. Here it is. And it works. I'm going to get a little bit into my process. So this is the way my brain works. I'm a visual processor. I'm going to look at a photo, I'm going to feel the photo, and then I paint the feelings. And I'm a little bit different than other artists that are on the spectrum that do paint, because they'll see blocks of color, or they'll see patterns, or they'll see something kind of repetitive that will show up in their art. I don't do that. I look at something, I feel something, and then the feeling goes on the canvas. So every single painting I have, you will see feelings, because that's what I paint. The things that show up on the canvas are just the vehicle by which the feeling gets on the canvas. As I said, I don't even know what it's going to look like till I finish. I know today I'm going to do a horse for you. And that's as far as I'm going with it, because I don't know what it's going to look like. But I do know that there's going to be energy, because I feel the energy. And I can feel the power of the horse. And it's going to show up on that canvas. And it's going to be my gift through my autism to the conference. And that's what I do. I'm fortunate enough that 4 years of painting, 600-700 paintings. I'm fortunate enough that I'm getting recognized, and this unique ability that flows through me is being recognized in many ways at conferences, benefits. But now I have a going to have 135 of my paintings. And just like in my jobs, I get bored. So it's paintings with everything in the world. I mean, anything I feel something about can show up in a painting. So I have 135 paintings. Now, what's a unifier in my paintings is I use color, and I use color proficiently. And my autism knows a way to put colors together, and it's interesting. And they all have feelings. But with this 135 paintings that are coming out of the book, I share my autistic journey. I share what it feels like for me to get in a bath. I share what it feels like to have connections with people that I don't understand. I share things like I don't understand socialized merchandising that makes me, want to buy something because I want to look sexy. I mean, really, think about that. You're not going to see me in high heels, I'm going to tell you. So I get it. I see the things around me. I'm able to analyze the things around me. You get a group of people outside a bar, they're drinking, the guys start catcalling at the women. Now, no woman has ever given herself to a man catcalling. I'm going to tell you. It's like, it makes no sense. But I understand primordial instincts. I understand wolves howling at the top of a hill. And I understand why they do it. But the autism in me doesn't understand why they do it. Because it may be an instinct, but why do we give into it? So the book's about that. It's about my head. It's about how I see things. It's about how I see the world. And each and every painting has about 300 to 500, maybe 600 words telling you how I see the world, or what experiences I've had, or whatever. So that will be out in March. I do have a booth that is directly across for registration. Any of you who might be interested in seeing a mock-up of the book, it's there, so you can see it. And then I'm going to be taking email addresses. So if you're interested in perhaps being on the email address that be notified when the book's out, that will be it. And then there's also a calendar where I, basically have included about 12 different paintings, just because everyone was asking for it. You may not be able to afford a several $1,000 painting, but you may want a piece of the art. And that's what I'm selling for. And you can just knock me over. Truthfully, like I said, for someone who's scraped along doing menial jobs their entire life, to be able to paint a painting at night, post it, and guess what? The next morning it may sell on Facebook for $2,000 or $3,000. It's just crazy. It's a crazy life. I'm going to spend a few minutes just kind of getting ready, and I'm going to paint for you. And after I paint, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the process, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, as I said. And at that time, anyone who might want to line up and ask me questions, because I want everyone to be able to hear the questions, because they're usually things that are of interest to everybody. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate Kathleen bringing me here. She actually saw me at the Autism Society of America's National Convention in Denver. And so at that time, I was there 3 days, 14 paintings later. We kind of ended the show. But I'm getting ready to paint for you. absolute power. And it's not even the power of the horse, it's the power of the autism. I cannot tell you how I surrender myself to the autism, and how I allow it to have its gift, and how I allow it to create this painting. I don't know if there's anyone that can stand these shoes and understand this feeling that goes through me, and how it feels when I'm done to back away, and honestly, I'm seeing it for the first time. For whatever happened, when I painted this, it wasn't on the side that I know, that I'm here, that I'm aware. I mean, it's an incredible gift. Your children all have it. Somewhere deep inside them, they haven't. The question is, when are they going to find it? And who's going to nurture it out of them? Who's going to recognize and see their normal and see what a beautiful light is within them? It took me till I was in my 50s before I was able to find my light. Because I didn't have you guys. I didn't have all of you that are in a position right now to see the children. Whether or not you're a parent, or whether or not you're in education. In some way, if you are seeing these children, what is their light? And just because I'm high functioning doesn't mean that everyone else doesn't have gifts as well. We have many students we work with that are nonverbal, some that you would consider mid-functioning, and they do incredible things. They're just looking for that doorway that each of you can open. Because you're in a position to open a door here. You're in a position where someone can be seen and heard for the first time. I told a story once, and in fact, it's in my book, and it's, there's a parent who wants to buy a toy for their child, and it's the toy that they obsess about, and it's the thing that is their thing. And they take this child into this toy store in order to buy them this gift, this thing that they decided out of the goodness of their heart they're going to give their child, and they're going to make them the happiest they've ever been. And the child was nonverbal. And he goes to the door and immediately puts his hands up against his ears. And then he starts to whine. And then he starts to cry. But all the parent can see is, I'm going to get that toy and make him the happiest child ever. We have to see and hear our children. If someone is giving you clear indications of who they are, where they are, what they need, hear them, see them. Because sometimes our desires are more important than that. If you have a kid in class or you have someone at home and you want them to do something, you want them to draw something, you want them to do something that's going to make them happy, and they're whining and crying, well, you're getting an indicator. That's not the door they want to go through. So this parent has a crossroads at that moment. Do I drag this child through this busy store, subject them to all the sensory things, to get them this toy because I'll feel better about it? I'll feel better if I give them that toy. Or do we see the messages we're getting and say, I see you, I hear you, you are having difficulties. And you can say it to him. Okay, I understand it. I understand it. This is not a good place for you to be. I'm going to take you home. You're going to be with Dad. And later on this evening, I'm going to get to that toy because Mama wants to get to the toy. And she knows how much you like it. Make the correct choices. Hear them. Don't do it for you. Do it for them. And if you want to do something, do it because you saw them, you heard them, you know what their interests are, and you're trying to do it within the context of their normal. That's important. I feel very blessed I, I, I have in 3 years 11,000 people on Facebook. If you try to be my friend, you can't. I'm capped out. I didn't even know you could cap out on Facebook. You know, but 5,000, you cap off. And then I have an art page, and it's got another 5,000, 6,000. And then I have an art group, and it's got another 7,000. This has all happened in 3 years. 3 years. So I could sit at home, or I could go find a little place to paint, and I could hide somewhere, and I could paint these, and I could sell them, and I could do very well. But that's not my calling. That's not what I've been called to do. I'm unique. And there will be other people that you will see, and there will be other gifts, but this particular gift I have is unique to me. And my writings, when I write about that, is unique to me. So I go to the uncomfortable place where I'm in front of you, and it looks real easy for you guys, but you should be up here and like feel the little autistic screaming inside me while I do this. I'm going to be across from the registration. I'm going to be in my booth. I'll also be, at 2:30, I'll be there at the meet and greet. Anyone who might be interested in this book, I'm just trying to get it out there. I'm telling you, like, in my perfect world, I have a huge amount of sales. It winds up going on the bestseller list, and people just get more and more awareness about autism. So I would appreciate if you guys go by, put an email address down, and I'll blast you when it's out. And other than that, if you have other questions, I'm there as well. Thank you.